And another thing that I have to mention that's different is the way combat works. If you're a magic class, if you rely heavily on casting instead of melee, and that is, there's pretty much no delay between casting. And again, if this happens at the really high levels, I wouldn't notice it, because even when I was going through and I was looking at the skills for the higher levels, I was noticing that it kept saying that there was no delay between when you could cast this and when you could use it again. Because casting, for whatever reason in World of Warcraft, is like basically like playing a rail shooter. Because you're just firing repeatedly all these different spells. Like, I would use a fire spell, and then use a frost spell, then use a strong fire spell, then another fire spell, and then another ice spell. And it was just rapid fire casting, and you would kill stuff before it even had a chance to get near you. Even when it was running full speed, you could kill stuff before it got to you. You wouldn't even have to move to, create space between you. I just thought that was kind of ridiculous. Although, other than that, WoW is really not that different from EverQuest. I mean, one of the funny things I noticed is that a lot of the abilities in the game are identical to the point that they share the exact same name as the stuff in EverQuest. Like, I mentioned that my main was a rogue. Most of the abilities are the same. Even in name, like parry, dodge, pickpocket, pick lock, dual wield, safe fall. That one really made me laugh. You can use poisons on your weapons, you can dual wield, you can hide, and you can sneak around. It's pretty much the same thing. Let's see, what else is there? Because I know there's other stuff. Traveling is pretty identical. You have the walking, and you have the regular speed boost, you have mounts, you have teleportations. It's the same damn thing. Trade skills, or professions, are pretty identical. And there are almost the same amount in each one. And again, some of them are named basically the same thing. Alchemy, blacksmithing, fishing, jewel craft, tailoring. The only real differences are herbalism, which is actually sort of like foraging, and alchemy in EverQuest. Mining is a really different one, and it actually reminds me of someone that I showed a World of Warcraft trailer to back when it was first coming out, because in part of the trailer they mentioned trade skills, and they showed a person mining, and they basically said, wow, it's RuneScape with better graphics. That's kind of unfair, but again, it's the first thing that came to mind. And one thing that I found kind of unusual as a profession in World of Warcraft is first aid. Why does that count as a profession? I don't really understand that, but again, that's because I have the EverQuest bias. Because in EverQuest, it has first aid, except it's called Bind Wound, and anybody can do it. You don't have to call it a profession, because just anybody can do it so long as they have bandages. Although, of course, the lower your skill is in it, the worse it's going to work out. That's why you train up in it. Classes in World of Warcraft, pretty identical to EverQuest. Although, again, you run into the problem where some of them are named the same thing, or basically are the same thing. There are 16 in EverQuest. From what I could tell, there were 9 in World of Warcraft. The priest in World of Warcraft is the cleric in EverQuest. The hunter in World of Warcraft is the ranger in EverQuest. The one thing I really couldn't draw a comparison to was the warlock in World of Warcraft. Closest thing to that is the necromancer, but the necromancer deals with the dead, the warlock deals with the demonic. So, that's just slightly different. Equipment, basically the only difference is the condition thing that I mentioned. And one other thing, going back to the throwing knives, how can you use throwing knives underwater? Just throwing that out there. I don't know how that really works. Other than that, basically, World of Warcraft has a lot in common with EverQuest. Although, if I had to give World of Warcraft a 2-word description, just 2 words in general to describe it, as an MMORPG, and again, this is where people who like World of Warcraft are going to get really pissy at me. The 2 words I would use to describe it are training wheels. Because World of Warcraft is basically one of the easiest MMORPGs I ever played. Partially because the way death works in World of Warcraft, you basically have no penalties, so you are free to lunge at groups of enemies like idiots, or like an idiot, and just keep getting killed over and over, and basically experience next to no penalty for it. Now, of course, when you get to the higher levels and you start doing like the raids and stuff, I'm sure it gets more difficult. But even in terms of single-player progression, World of Warcraft is ridiculously easy. It's almost insulting at times. Back with the experience for just discovering new places, or doing quests, and some quests just amount to talk to this person, and you get experience for it. It's mind-numbing at times. Basically, would I pay for World of Warcraft? No. The only way I would play World of Warcraft again is if someone else paid for it for me, like if I got a card to play a month or a couple months for just in general, and if I had someone else to play it with. Because I don't know why EverQuest drew me in, World of Warcraft didn't. Maybe it's because I'm actually looking for a challenge. And I know people are going to comment on this saying that I didn't get to the hard stuff. Maybe I didn't. But even then, EverQuest presented a lot more of a challenge and drew me in a lot more than World of Warcraft did. The purpose of the trial was to get me to want to keep playing the game. It really failed miserably at that. And the thing is, the trial is not just a demo of the game. You are playing the actual game with the demo. You are interacting with people that do subscribe to the game, and you're playing the same environments that they would play. And it just didn't draw me in at all. Either experience or with the role-playing aspect. I played on a role-playing server, and I didn't really do it. And most of the role-playing I saw, I have to admit, was kind of lame. But, again, that's just from an outsider's perspective. So, you can't really put a lot into that. So, but, yeah. What time is it? Oh, crap! These 2 minutes. Sorry, I think the game tipped off already. Come on! Yes, Celtics by 3.
If it continues like that, you like your chance.